Hello Cardinals, how are you doing today? It's Sunday and I'm making my videos for you for this week, and I've got a fun story to read with you today. It's called Buster, and Buster is a really cute little dog, and he's a happy little dog, and he loves his owner very much. And then one day his owner brings a box home, and there's something in the box that Buster's not just real sure about. So let's read the story, and then we'll talk a little bit more after. The author of this story is Denise Fleming, and she's also the illustrator. So she did the story and the pictures for us today. And so we're going to read about Buster. And there he is. Looks like he's out there playing with the butterflies. Buster was a happy dog. He had everything he could ever want. He had dishes with his name painted on them in curvy letters. There are his dishes. He has a purple and a gold one. Uh-oh, purple and gold. He could be an LSU Tiger fan. You think so? Well, I still think he's cute. He kind of looks like a Mississippi State color. What do you think? No? He might be a Tiger fan. He has a large grassy yard with a tall oak tree to nap under. He has a sand pit for taking dirt baths, an in and out flap on the back door so he can come inside and go outside whenever he wants. He has a basket full of toys, a radio tuned to his favorite station, and by the looks of it, I think Buster is a dancer. Boy, the two of us would get along really well. And Brown Shoes, who took Buster to the park whenever Buster asked. Buster was a happy dog until Brown Shoes brought home the big box. Brown Shoes is Buster's person, and he must call him Brown Shoes because that's probably what Buster sees the most of, or his feet. So he calls his person Brown Shoes. And there is the big box on the table. Buster stared at the big box. He hoped there were juicy steaks or fancy French cheeses or spicy sausages in the big box. Yummy. But there were no steaks, no cheeses, no sausages in the box. There was just a bag of sand, a large flat pan, 2 small dishes, and a cat named Betty. Isn't she cute? Buster was not happy. Buster was afraid of cats. Look, he looks pretty scared, doesn't he? Betty jumped down off of the table. She began to purr and twist and turn around Buster's legs. Buster was terrified. He was afraid to move. If I ignore her, thought Buster, maybe she'll just go away. Betty did everything to attract Buster's attention. She slept in Buster's dishes with the curvy letters, but Buster ignored her. There she is, asleep in the purple one. She dug in Buster's sand pit, but Buster ignored her. She ran in and out and in and out the in and out flap. She hid Buster's toys, but he ignored her. Then she changed the station on Buster's radio. That was just too much for Buster. Uh-oh. Buster looks like he's getting kind of mad. Buster slipped under the fence. He ran down the block over 5 streets and around 2 corners, and he came to a park. Not his usual park, but a fine park with tall trees, a bubbling fountain, tubs of flowers, large grassy patches, and not a cat in sight. No, Betty, thought Buster as he drank from the fountain. No, Betty, thought Buster as he rolled in the sand. No, Betty, thought Buster as he listened to his favorite radio station. No, Betty, thought Buster as he fell asleep in the shade of a tall tree. So he just had a wonderful day. Buster woke up. He was hungry. He was lonely. Soon it would be dark. Buster was ready to go home. He looked up the street. He looked down the street. Uh-oh, nothing looked familiar. Buster circled the park to the left. Then he circled the park to the right. Buster had no idea which direction was home. Buster was lost. What should he do if he's lost? If he's ever lost, if you ever get lost, what should you do if you're lost? Does anybody know? I bet you're telling me some really good ideas right now. And I bet one of them is you should look for a policeman. If you're outside or in a park or something or in a store where they might have a security guard or some person that has a uniform on that looks like they work at the store, or if there's a restaurant or a store by a park and you're in a park, or look for somebody with a uniform on that looks like they might work there, a police officer, a security guard, maybe a fireman, someone that you know is official, and you could go up and you could say, I'm lost and I need to find my mom or my dad or my grandma or my brother or sister, whoever you've gotten lost from. So always remember that. Buster asked the big yellow dog if he knew which way was home. He asked the tiny black dog if she knew which way was home. He asked the man sweeping the walks if he knew which way was home. No one in the park had any idea where Buster lived. Buster sat very still and tried to remember the route he'd taken to get to the park. But he'd been so busy trying to get away from Betty that he hadn't paid attention. All Buster could think about was how he would never see his home, his dishes, his sandbox, his toys, his tree, or brown shoes again. What would he do? Where would he go? Just then, a pigeon circled Buster. It landed close to Buster's ear. "Coo, cuckoo," said the pigeon, looking up. Buster looked up. way up. In the top of the tall tree, several streets over, Buster saw a waving ball of white fur. The tree looked very familiar. The waving ball of fur looked very familiar. There it is. Can you see it in the tree? Guess who it is? It's Betty. Betty the cat. Buster ran out of the park around 2 corners, over 5 streets, turned left, and ran up the block, all the time keeping an eye on Betty. Buster slipped under the fence. Betty ran down the tree and over to Buster. Betty began to purr and twist and turn around Buster's legs. Buster was a happy dog. He had everything he could ever want and more. He had a new friend, didn't he? He had a new friend named Betty. And she helped him get home, didn't she? That's right. Very good. Buster by Denise Fleming. So, since we've been home all this time, and I know a lot of you have dogs and kitty cats maybe and other pets, and our pets have really enjoyed us being with them all day, every day, and they're getting spoiled rotten. And some of you maybe have even gotten new pets because you're home, and that'll give you something to do and something to play with. Remember to always put a collar with a tag on your pet that has either your mom or your dad's phone number on it or your street address, so that if your pet gets lost like Buster did and there's not a cat in the tree to help him find his way home, somebody can help Buster get home. That actually happened to me. It's happened to me twice since I've lived in this house. It happened a couple weeks ago. We had a little bitty terrier dog that showed up in the yard when we were out playing, when we were out working in our yard with our flowers, and he stayed around and he didn't want to leave, and he was not afraid of my cats. And so after a while, I looked on his collar, and sure enough, he had a phone number. And I called his owner, and she came right around the street to get him. And sure enough, she did not know that he had gotten out of the backyard. And that happened with a bigger dog about 6 or 7 months ago. It was we had a really bad storm, and the dog had gotten out of the backyard, and she was very afraid. She was a collie, and she had really pretty long hair, and she was old. And you could tell she was old because she had gray hair like Miss Mac, who hadn't been able to go get any color. But she had gray hair, and she was limping, so I knew she probably had arthritis and was old. And sure enough, on her collar, she had a phone number. So I called, and her owners were so happy that I had kept her in my yard and called them, because they said they knew that she had been afraid in the storm. So be sure and put that identification on your pets so that they will be able to find their way back to you if they were to get out of your yard. Don't forget about the online book fair. I sent the flyers home to your parents last week. It started this past Friday. Your parents you do not have to have, it's going to ask you if you want to log in or register. As long as they use the web address I gave them in the flyers, you do not have to log in. You can say no thank you and go straight to shopping. So I hope y'all enjoy the virtual book fair, the online book fair, and I hope you get some really good stories and books for you to read this summer. And read. Make sure they're AR books so that when we get back to school, we can get right back on track. Okay, I hope you guys have a great week. It was great spending this little time with you today, and I hope to see you soon. I love and miss you. Goodbye.